JCAL Cross, your host for JCAL Education at Home series, Hip Hop History. Obviously, I'm a music creator, producer, songwriter, singer, educator, but also historian, studying for year after year after year under brilliant world-renowned historians. Here I am today, making my own mark as a historian, and I'm very thankful about that. The most rewarding thing in history, for me, is shedding light on historical facts that makes people think, smile, and oftentimes be proud. Okay, now, many MCs, rappers, singers, DJs, producers, and all types of music creators have set out to create songs that represents their city. Jay-Z's Empire State of Mind, Nas's New York State of Mind, NWA, Straight Outta Compton, Jermaine Dupri, Welcome to Atlanta. The list goes on, but the anthem we're going to talk about here today knows no equal. It is very unique, one of a kind. Now sit back and watch all the dots that had to connect to make this happen. Watch this. And here we go again. A child was born up in the Bronx, lived over on 174. Let's call him P. That same year, the New York Mets won their first title at Shea Stadium. Sometimes after the games, Mets players would go over the Queensboro Bridge to a bar called Rudy's, a notorious bar in Manhattan. But come with me back uptown, the Bronx. A few years later, another kid was born. Let's call him T. Yeah. Let's go with T. Now, remember P and remember T. Got it? Good. Okay, so a couple of years go by, and on Sedgwick, they had that infamous back to school party, DJ Kool Herc on the wheels. This was an extraordinary event for hip hop as the story goes. Now keep that in mind, because at the same time, a child was born in Puerto Rico. I can tell you his name. It was Jerry. Jerry was born almost simultaneously as the celebrated birth date of hip hop. Keep Jerry somewhere in the back of your mind. Back to Rudy's bar downtown. One person that frequented that bar from time to time was a comedian. This legendary comedian would hop in a cab, a couple of avenues east, and would arrive at work. Where did he work, you ask?
Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
Chevy Chase was fresh out of a New York band where he played the drums, but the other two guys in the band were Don and Walter. So with them splitting, Don and Walter created a new band, and they were incredible. Now, remember how in Queens at Shea Stadium, they won their championship the same year P was born in the Bronx? Well, at this point, another professional team was playing at Shea Stadium too. Guess who? The Bronx Bombers. The Yankees. Don and Walter's band had released their 6th album. The album was called Aja. Meanwhile, the Bronx was on fire. Not only literally, but figuratively too. To sit here and name all the players would be impossible. But I'll ask you this. Have you ever heard of Grandmaster Flash? Furious 5. Brilliant. The Furious 5 literally changed the world. But that's a story for another day. Funky 4 plus one more, the list would literally go on. Okay, so as the album Aja was exploding onto the scene, there was this one song. It was the first song on the album. It told a story about a woman sitting in a bar drinking something called Black Cow. The name of the bar, you ask? Rudy's. You may not have realized it, but I have just slipped the musical foundation for one of hip-hop's hardest, most beloved anthems ever. Let's go. Now remember the comedian that used to frequent Rudy's bar, Chevy Chase? Well, here comes the first rap group to be featured on SNL.
Shout don't stop the lady, just get on your mic. Just get on your mic. Just get on your mic. You love the house, right?
The Bronx. Now, cut to a slightly different neighborhood in the Bronx. There was a young man had been DJing for some time. His name, Casanova Fly. Today you would know him as Grandmaster Cass. After some time passes, Grandmaster Cass becomes part of a group, the same group that inspired this Jay-Z quote.
I'm overcharging for what they did to the Cold Crush.
You already know.
Guaranteed to give me what you made your money for, cause the Cold Crush brothers got robbed.
Okay, let's go back to P. Well, he lived near Cass and Easy A.D. from Cold Crush. P was extremely influenced by the Cold Crush brothers. So much so that he was part of a rap group called the Baby Cold Crush 4. Now, the mighty Zulu Nation had a group within it, the Jazzy 5. Now, although Zulu Nation is closely affiliated with Bronx River Projects, the Jazzy 5 were generally from a housing project called Soundview, called Soundview. It was there T started getting his influence. Time passes on, hip-hop is going to new heights. On 174, P was not only rapping, but he was also singing, and he was a musician, a drummer. But in the streets, it was quite a different story for P. As a high school dropout, he'd begun dealing in protective devices. Some of y'all just caught that. Have you ever heard of Money Boss Players? A rap crew who, instead of having a rap name, they used their street name. They were a problem.
Man, you shout you getting money, B, you ain't getting a dime. Y'all is petty crooks, snatch and change the pocketbook.
T from Soundview was a part of that crew. Now back over to 174, P experienced a shift, lyrically even. And on his side of town, the rap crew he was connected with was called the Gun Runners, and they were a problem.
I see my peoples on the ab, ready to hum a cat. They wanna bring it, so where's the drama at?
Now, P had a sister. His sister had a boyfriend. She says to P, "You really should meet my boyfriend because he raps and he's really good." Ultimately, P meets her boyfriend. Fateful.
Out the frame we blew, yeah. Money, boss, mom support. You see the jewels in the cars we bought.
T gets a record deal with Interscope Records. Shaquille O'Neal gets a label deal with Interscope. The idea was to have T go down to Florida and collaborate with Shaq on some of his music. T tells Shaq, "My girlfriend's brother is a great writer and collaborator." Who does T call? P. While they were down in Orlando with Shaq, they were collaborating with a little bit of everybody. Now back to the Bronx. Producer K&S was searching through his records one day. He finally puts his hand on one, a record about New York, a record about Rudy's Bar, by Don and Walter's band. Okay, so follow me. P goes in and records an entire song. He plays the song for T. T goes nuts. He loves it. This was a fateful moment for hip hop. Come with me on this. T had two suggestions. One was that he gets on the song too, which was a brilliant idea. Two, he said to P, "You should add something to your hook." What did he ask P to add to his hook? Quick story. Back in New York, P had found himself going to places like the Tunnel, Skate Key, and other places, and he'd hear people chanting. He'd hear the Brooklyn people chanting. He'd hear the various sections of Queens chant Queens. He'd hear the Harlem World guys chanting Harlem World. And as P sat there in those clubs, Kool Herc ran through his mind. Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Chief Rocker Busy B, Cold Crush, Fantastic Five, and all of the other pioneers from the Bronx passed through his mind. And as the heroes of these other boroughs begin to add their value to hip-hop, P turned to his crew and said, "When I turn to you and say, if it wasn't for the Bronx, this rap probably never would be going on. Now tell me where you're from." And his boys would yell, "Uptown, baby. Uptown, baby." But you already knew that. And you've probably guessed by now that by this time, P was going by the name Peter Guns. And likewise, T, who of course you know as Lord Tariq. Back to Tariq's suggestion. The second thing he suggested was, why don't you add to the song the chant you used to do in the Tunnel? And at this point, Lord Tariq and Peter Guns, who were not a group, created this song together. It went like this. It went like this.
New York to the heart, but got love for all. Line die in the fire where I learned the ball. Uptown is the place where I lay my dome. On the streets of the Bronx where my family roam.
In taking Lord Tariq's advice, he then says,
"If it wasn't for the Bronx, this rap probably never would be going on. So tell me where you from."
Uptown, baby. Uptown, baby. We gets down, baby. I'm for the crown, baby.
I know you are dancing in your house right now. Lord Tariq told Peter Guns, "Get your suit ready. We're going to the Grammys." Now it was time to shoot the video. The video was obviously supposed to be shot at Yankees Stadium in the Bronx, but Kevin Costner was shooting a film there at the time. So the suggestion was to do it at Shea Stadium. Now let's think about this. They were coming to the place where the Mets won their first championship, generally right when Peter Guns was being born. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a full circle moment. Full circle moment. A certain person introduced them in that video. This guy.
It's Lord Tariq and Peter Guns. Deja vu.
But let's keep the full circles going, shall we? Remember when I said there was a kid born virtually right when Kool Herc gave his party? I said his name was Jerry Rivera. It is his music that they are sampling to trumpet that the Bronx is coming. It can't get more Bronx than that. Oh, and don't go anywhere because there's one last dot. 9 years later, his song was sampled for a Shakira song featuring the guy talking at the beginning of Lord Tariq and Peter Guns' song, but now it was a pop smash. And for good measure, remember Peter Guns' sister who made that fateful introduction? Well, she married Peter Guns' friend, a guy he worked with, a guy from Soundview. Peter Guns' sister married Lord Tariq, and they're beautifully married to this day. I love it when a story comes together. Mind-blowing. Thank you for checking us out here at Hip Hop History's JCAL Education at Home series. And that will do it. It's been fun. It's been amazing. And let's do this again sometime. Be blessed, and I'll see you next time.